Hey, how are you? How is everybody? I am fixing a banner that I should have fixed before I started, so give me 1 second. Okay. I'm trying to figure out a better way to help kind of distinguish which video is which when people come to the page. And my goal was to put the banners on there before. Oh, my hair is a mess. Okay, y'all, sorry. You're just going to have to deal with me today. I done went live before I looked closely in the mirror, I guess. Hello, friend. How are you today? Let me restart this. Okay. So, as you join me, if you'll say hi, I would love to have you say hi so we can converse and chit chat back and forth. I'm going to switch cameras now so that we can look at my work area because I'm just not in the mood to try and do more than one. All right. So, and I don't have the picture of Rosie in here. Zoe's got Rosie hanging on her wall, and I meant to go grab her and I forgot. Last year I painted the older grandpuppy when she was a puppy, because to me that was the best way to get her on the frame. I may try doing them both when they're bigger later. I used some tracing paper. I have used wax paper before to trace these. And then here's little Caesar when he was a little bitty thing. About a year or so ago. And so I'm going to try and put him on here for us to paint. This kind of what I did with Rosie. She's standing in some grass, so I'm not real worried about feet looking just so, or the colors coming out just perfect. What I am going to do is kind of trace them on there, and then I'll use my other brushes, and we'll kind of go from there to fill them in around it. So I'm going to come down just... In the original picture, his feet are kind of cut off. I'm going to scoot him up a little bit and have him standing more in the grass. I'm not going to put the little collar, the little leash part on there. I'm going to work around that. So I'm going to kind of try to just trace this on here. And you'll see as I do the background why I opted to kind of do it on the tracing paper or wax paper, either one. I've done them with the clear overhead projector type stuff. I like how it works. I do not like the we just came up. I think we'll be okay and close enough. I kind of had my hand on him. I like how it looked and worked and was easy to do. It's just it was so thick trying to trace over the transparency thing that it was very hard to attempt to. And I'm just going to kind of streak this out here like that instead of giving him a funky looking chin. We've got some color lines here that we're trying to work with. Hey, Julie, how are you? How's it going? Did you have fun on your vacation? Look like you were having a blast is all I'm going to say. So I'm going to do this. And what I'm going to do for you, Julie, is I'm going to try and do a little tutorial. And you're going to have to tell me if it works really well or not when I get done with it. I'm going to take my iPad and I'm going to set it down and have the camera coming over it and do kind of a tutorial that way where I take like a picture like this one and I show you how to use Procreate to do a tracer for it. And then I want your feedback on it when you get a chance. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. You needed the break. You needed a good, relaxing break. And your face showed, your eyes showed that you were really enjoying your trip. So, yeah, oops, I didn't get the inside of his legs. Well, that's not really good. We'll just go around it. We'll work around it. All right, so I'm going to take my friend Mr. Scruffy brush. I'm going to move Caesar over here where I can kind of see him a little better. And I'm going to put my colors on here. And I'm going to be using my Deco Art Hauser dark green, light green, and medium green. Mostly because to me they are like the perfect grass background if you want shading built in. Sorry, I didn't mean to be making so much noise tap, tap, tapping, but that one was a lot lower than I expected it to be. All right, so what I'm going to do is when I get done with this, hopefully, I'm going to try doing a little video for you, Julie, where I'm trying to show you how to use the Procreate to do your backgrounds, and there's several neat things about Procreate that I really like. Okay, y'all, I'm getting some light green and some dark green, both on the medium green and the light green, the medium and the dark on there. Hey, Tammy, how are you? And then I'm just kind of pouncing it. Doesn't look like very much of the light is coming off right now. And I'm not worried about going over the edge of my puppy. I just don't want to have to fight with, although he's black, so it won't be a big deal for most of it. It will be when you get to the lighter colors, if there's a lot of green under there and then you're trying to have to come back from that. It doesn't always help or make it easy. So I'm going to put some more light green in medium green. Okay, I've got the dark and the medium green on here right now. And I'm just kind of twisting it back and forth. And can y'all see the color differences, especially like right in here down this side? There's dark green and light green and dark green and light green. I'm going to come back through. Try not to over pounce a single area, but you got to get the coverage on there. And it might be better just to put the darker green down and then pounce the two lighter colors. Let's try that one. I'll take the dark green and get it mostly. Okay, that way I can get the edges too. Heading to work, let me know when you do that video. I sure will. I'll either tag you or I'll send you a link. Because if I do it, I may put it on YouTube and just leave it invisible to everybody else until I realize. Till you give me some feedback on it. If it's no good, I'll redo it and then we'll try again. But if it's good and it's helpful, I may just stick it out there. Because I've learned it was really helpful for me. I did a sunflower tracer with it for a sunflower that I'd done. And I've done a couple of other tracers with it. What you up to today, Miss Tammy? Okay, that was a big chunk I wasn't expecting. All right, and again, around these feet, only because they're brown am I going to worry about trying to make sure that I don't go crazy with it. I'm not real worried about it because it should cover it up pretty well, especially if you let this dry. But I am wanting to get some of that later. Good morning, Miss Deborah. How are you? What are you up to this morning? I've got his ear all covered up already. That's okay. His ear's mostly black. Okay, so I'm going to take and just put the darker green down to start with. She's good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I've been trying to get this painting done for a while. I just haven't given in and done it. And Clint saw the picture the other day and says, "Oh, I want the picture. Can I have the picture?" I said, "Not until I finish my painting." And he says, "Well, finish your painting." And I was like, okay. So I kind of got a little push to finish this painting. And if you're late joining, I'm just getting the edges right here on this canvas. This is just the background. We're working on the background for Caesar. Working on homework from last night. Okay, that sounds really good, Miss Deborah. This is Caesar, my son's little puppy dog. He's hound and black lab. And he's adorable. He's a year old now, but this is him when he was a puppy. And I'm working on doing a kind of a painting of him. I painted Rosie when she was little bitty. So I'm going to paint him. That way they can both have a painting that Mama did of their babies. Oh, he is cute. He's a cute mess. He is a huge mess. Well, you heard him making noise last night when we were talking on the phone, Deborah, but I'm telling you, he is a mess. I stood up on the couch and was going to go do something. And the little heathen stood up on the couch, put his paws on my shoulders and pulled me back down like, you're not leaving me. I don't want you to leave yet. You have to stay here with me. Which I thought was hilarious. And of course, he likes to nuzzle in and snuggle in on Nana. He's crazy. He's still warming up to Philip. He's not Pops' favorite animal. But I think that has to do with how my son brought him home. He just brought him in. He didn't call or ask Dad or anything like that. He's smart. He's a smart one, sounds like. Yeah, he's pretty smart. He knows who to snuggle up to get what he get good taken care of and all that good stuff. He's getting friendlier with Philip. We call Philip Pops and I'm Nana. When it comes to the grand pups here. He's getting friendlier with Dad, but with Pops there, but it's one of those that his daddy just kind of brought him home and says, my neighbor needs. Yes, it is always good to know where your bread is buttered, and he knows that Nana is the softie. I think they all know that Nana is the softie. Kids and dogs alike. They're so funny. But yeah, Clint just showed up one night while we were on the Zoom call. And he says, my friend needs me to help him find a good home. I really think our house is a good home for him. And I'm like, no. We already have 2 dogs in this house. He says, I'm going to be moving out soon and I'll take him with me. Please just let me keep him. Please just let me keep him. And this puppy's just looking at me with these sad little puppy eyes like he knows his life depends on his ability to stay in this house depends on it. And of course, the Maggie and Rosie are like loving on him already. And I'm like, oh, really? So his daddy wasn't real tickled that he just brought another dog home and didn't ask first. So that's, I think, why Caesar kind of knows there's some reservations with the big guy. Okay, I'm not super worried about these streaks in here because I'm fixing to pounce over this. Otherwise, I would be like really worried about making that a smooth background, y'all. Just so you know. We're making some minor edits to it to get rid of the leash that was on the little guy at the time. All right, so I've got that done. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in the light and medium Hauser green and kind of pounce it. I'm going to go ahead and leave that darker green that was in there, but you can see you've got the light and the medium greens, and we're just going to kind of pounce. Whoops. Gotta get a little bit more of that out of that. We don't want it to be just all right there. But I take and I pounce them and I kind of turn them around and get some medium in where the light was. And that needs a lot of green up there or something. There was like way too much light green in that when I started. And I'm just going to kind of go hit around the edges there, even around him, because again, I don't want it to be like full of the black full of the green, but I want it to kind of look like his paws are kind of sitting in. We'll pounce a little bit at the end again around him closer. But this kind of gives us some built-in shading around him. Because grass isn't just all one color, is it? Grass, you got light greens and dark greens and shadows and textures and stuff. And I'm not going to put the dead grass marks in there. So I'm just going to do the different shades of the lighter grass, in here. But I'm not necessarily going to do it where there's a lot of the others. See, I'm just going to kind of tap it around here, and we're going to come back around over here. See, you've got the green behind it, so those streaks where I didn't make it a perfectly smooth, good, super thick stroke are covered up. We're really not worried about that being perfectly done. Okay, and I'm going to leave that over there because when we use that, we want it to be dry every time. So, okay. So now I'm going to get some black, I think. Oh, that was way more black than I wanted. All right. Well, we'll see where we're at with him. All right. So we've got an ear coming out here that we're covering up. Hello, Madeline. How are you? Good to get to see you and visit with you. Yeah, my son kind of was wanting my original picture that I'd printed for his Puccini here, for his little puppy back in the day. Okay, that ear is like way too big. I just messed that one up. Let me get a wipe. Oh, the wipes are on the other side of the room. Zoe was working. And the only open package of wipes is over here. So Zoe was in the studio most all weekend with me. Or I was in here with her yesterday because I wasn't creating. I was just keeping her company while she was finishing up what she was working on. Hey, Philip. There's more coffee in the pump can, and I haven't moved that other over yet, but we can put it in there. I figured we'd need more, just if y'all need it. All right. So I'm gonna. I believe I have a hairdryer set up, so I'm going to mute myself for a second and blow dry this. Hey, Linda, how are you? Well, I'm going to try and show you. Let's just go with that. Right now, oh, I messed that ear up really good. So I'm going to mute myself for just a second, and then I'll be right back. I'm going to blow dry it. I have to unmute myself for you to hear. I'm doing my son's puppy, Caesar. He is Hound and Black Lab mix. And he looks a lot like a Rottweiler, but he's not. He's just a Hound and a Black Lab mix. And what we learned was he's like a Transylvanian Bloodhound. That's how they mix them and breed them. Is doing that. So This is what we're aiming for. This is what we kind of want him to look like when we get done. I laid a piece of tracing paper over the picture and gave myself a general outline that I kind of put out now to kind of try and line it back up. Okay, apparently that needs to come in a whole lot more than I thought it did on the green. Okay. He is adorable. He is big now. He is big. I will say that because that was a year-old picture. And he has really gotten big in the last year. I was laughing and telling Deborah a while ago. Last night I stood up on the couch at one point and was fixing to go to the bathroom, and he stood up on the couch right behind me, put his paws on my shoulders, and put me right back down on that couch like he was not ready for Nana to go anywhere or walk away from him. So it was just, I was like, oh, well, hello. He stood up and his shoulders were, he had enough momentum still behind my shoulders that he could just plop me right back down on that couch without thinking twice about it. And I was like, he is getting big. He is getting very big. Okay, so I'm going to take these really quick and kind of come back around with my little scruffy brush. Now, y'all can probably do grass and grassy backgrounds in way different ways. I'm sure there's 1,001 ways to do it. For me, the fastest and easiest that I have found is to take my scruffy brush. If you do one stroke painting with Donna Dewberry, you know what a scruffy brush is. If you don't, then it is a flat brush that's been cut really short, and you mush them out just a little bit, maybe not too much, because if it gets too flat, then these are laying sideways instead of laying straight out. And then you kind of get it, you mush it around and you get it where you can work that around. And then you get a very mottled, you get this black splattered look. And if you look, I've got dark green, I've got a medium green, and then I've got some light greens all on here. And it adds the depth and layer of him standing in grass without having to do each single blade of grass. You're more than welcome to do every blade of grass if that's what you want to do. I'm not that patient, and I'm wanting to spend way more time and bring a whole lot more focus onto the dog rather than onto the grass. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself again for a second because I got to dry where I just fixed that. I like it too, Linda. I have really enjoyed doing it, the backgrounds that way. I did my other grand puppy. My daughter's got a 3-year-old Australian Shepherd Husky mix, Rosie, that I painted last year on a friend's page. Hang on, I got to get another piece of painter's tape. My daughter came in and used everything this weekend, so everything's across the room where she was working. It's always funny. I'm like, girl, you need to learn to put stuff up when you get done. Well, I left it where I had it last. And I'm like, yes, but that's not where you found it originally, is it? No, ma'am. So what I did was I took tracing paper. You can take wax paper and you can take regular printer paper. My thing is with regular printer paper, if this is a sheet of white paper, it's really hard to see how to line it back up and get kind of a general idea of where I've got my outlines. Y'all see where I've got what I've got going on already, dog-wise? Well, it's kind of hard to line it up if you can't see how to line it back up. And that's my problem with printer paper. I've used transparencies before, but they're really thick. So I really don't want a transparency if I don't have to use a transparency. And this is not wanting to stick where there's paint already. Well, I'll just have to hold that down really good, because I've got to retrace this ear and these legs down here. So I'm taking my tracing paper and I'm just going to hold this in, and I'm going to take my little stylus over here and I'm going to redo his ear. And I'm pretty sure I did not have part of his leg down here or right here. And he's standing in grass. So when I finish his legs and this part of his body and all of this, I plan to just kind of pounce over his feet so he looks like he's standing in the grass a little bit better. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. I think that's got everything drawn in. Yes, it does. All right, so can I see where that is? Well, I guess this must be a well-used piece of tracing paper is all I'm gonna say, because man, let me tell you, I cannot see that ear. So let's find a lesser used corner for that ear. Now, if I was at a party, I'd probably give everybody an original piece of tracing paper if I was doing this for a group. Let's see. Oh, I can barely see it still. What am I doing wrong? Well, maybe it's just it's so dark. The green is so dark. I usually don't have this much trouble with this. When you trace the copy image, how did you choose the features? Been wanting to do this for our shelter here in Texas. Well, here's this, and let me step to the other room and grab the one I did of Rosie too, so I can give you a clue. I'll be right back. 1 second, y'all. All right, so here's the original picture of Caesar. And I picked, okay, so he's not perfectly posed. His feet are in the grass and part of him is cut off. So what I did was I scooted him up, and I'm just going to make it look like he's standing in deeper grass than he was. Oh, don't worry about it, y'all. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I wasn't gone that long, was I? I love to do that. I just kind of tried to look and make sure I got his eyes, so I know exactly where his eyes were. But then you've got these little cute little dark light brown marks, and I tried to make sure that I marked that he has a few little dimples in here. But I keep my reference photo right here by me as I paint him, so that I've got him. But I traced around the different spots. Now Rosie has several different colors in her. She's Husky Australian Shepherd. And I was trying to do, and like I didn't even have the big scruffy at the time. I think I actually just took a paintbrush and was dabbing it back and forth because I didn't have a scruffy when I did these. And you just kind of, you have to look and see what are the major, I've got my major outline, but how do you go about, what can you do? I can do a light line right here as I'm coming through, but I kind of got to make sure that I can find it again, like the side of her face. It would have been lost in all the black over here. So I kind of did me a light brown, not really a noticeable, but if you look at her, because of her coloring, she has a light brown kind of glow around her because she's got black with the brown and white under fur underneath her. So that's what we do is I just kind of put that right there. Yeah, Rosie's adorable. She's a mess. She's 3 now, but this was when she was a puppy. Or I took a picture of her when she was a puppy and painted it. I did it last year, but then you just kind of play with it and you kind of think of, okay, and then again, I keep my reference photo here beside me so I can say, Caesar's just two-toned. I don't think he might have a hint of white in his little chest spot, but not really much. She's got multiple colors and her two big old eyes, two different color eyes. You can get lost in her some days. So that's where I'm at here. I'm trying to make sure I've got this trace on. This ear is not wanting to trace over this paint. I think I might have it now. Maybe. Hopefully. I think I'm going to take my pen here and just kind of scratch it out where I think it's at, because I made it too big a while ago, and you don't want it too big because you don't want it to not match the dog, right? All right. But yeah, I took the major color sections and kind of outlined them. And then I was like, not really sure how this is going to work because I've got this or I've got that. And then I just kind of worked around it. Thank you for sprinkling the love there. But now I'm going to kind of take and this ear kind of comes out and looks a little flatter, it looks like right here. So I'm going to just kind of trace what I can see. And like I said, I just follow that picture that's right here in front of me as best I can. Now, where that ear comes in and comes under here, I'm not real sure. I might have to put just a hint of the brown, and I'm still trying to decide what brown to use. I think cocoa might be good, but it's got a little bit of that gold in it, so I may mix some cocoa and King's Gold. We'll see. Because if this is the right shade, it doesn't look dark enough to me. Actually, I'm going to put some Golden Sunset in there, and we'll see how that mixes with it. It looks. Because I think these two together are going to be what we want for him. I'm going to set this one to the side. I don't want it to be too dark brown, but I don't want it to, see, just a little bit of that cocoa in there with that. Okay, the Golden Sunset is apple barrel, but I used some Deco Art King's Gold cocoa. And I think that's going to be just about the right shade, maybe just, and I'm just going to kind of hint the edge here, and just that little bit of difference in color. And this cheekbone comes up right here. And I'm just going to kind of hold it sideways and kind of feather it in. I will have to go over this again once I get the rest of him painted. I can guarantee you. But this kind of comes down and comes up like part of his nose down here and his muzzle. And then the black kind of blends into it. So I'm using the two different brushes at one time because I know that I'm going to want it to kind of, that just adds that little bit of shadowing right there at the edge. Does that help, Linda? Do you see what I did? I found it at Michael's and I have used it once, and that would be better to use on this, wouldn't it? Note to self, think about that in the future. Yes, I've got a couple of sheets. I found it. It's not where the regular carbon paper is anywhere else at Michael's. It was over with the paints. It was over with the stencils and stuff. And I could only find it in a 2-pack. Hang on, let me show you the packaging. That was good. This is what I found at Michael's. And this is how it looks. It's transfer paper. Actually, it was one sheet. I cut it in half, I think. But it's like an 11, almost 12 inches by 17. So it would cover my 16 by 20 for the most part of a design if I was to do a bigger one. And I think what I did was smaller with it. But white graphite paper, and I use them all the time. They last a long time too. I'm going to have to find me some white graphite paper if that's not what this is. This is white transfer paper. I don't know if it's the same stuff or not. But I got to find me some white graphite that'll definitely work better for on this darker color. Okay. And I'm going to try not to cover in the little eyebrow patches. And his eyes are really dark brown, so I'm going to try and leave like my little holes here. If you go over them, it's not that big a deal. Just remember you're going to have to kind of draw them back in. And if you don't want to have to figure out where they go or eyeball it, I try to trace around them. But again, if you've done it on a tracing paper, if your tracer is on something like wax paper or something thin, you can usually lay it down and get a good idea of where it goes. Comparatively speaking, you say, I got the eyeball off. That's why it looks lopsided, and going in and color and scoot it over. Yeah, it's on the same aisle as when I found it, in my Michaels, my back was to all the smaller paints and the Deco Art metallics and all those, and everybody's metallics was to my back. And there were brushes in front of me, and it was at the far left end, and then there were stencils down here at that end, and the bulk containers and stuff. That was the only thing I could find. I found a roll of graphite paper that I use for that usually lasts really well. I think it's just that it's black on the dark green. It's just not showing up is my problem right now today. Found that at Hobby Lobby for $15, and it's lasted me over a year. So, and it was several parties and several other things. So I was really impressed and happy with it. Okay. I'm trying to get this. I'll give it just a little bit more. There we go. Because he's got a little bit of a pointed tip on that ear. On those little ears of his. Now, when you look at the picture, you don't see a lot of this right in here, this lighter shade, but I put it in there and I added it anyway because I thought that would add a little bit of the shading that we needed, and it helps to see. If you had some different shades of black, maybe a different gray that was a little less, and see if you look at the picture he's got, and what I'll probably do is take some of that light color and kind of gently brush it in there. Hey, Jeannie, how are you? It looks like Linda, where she shared, has Harold hanging out with us too. So, hey, Harold. And then we're going to put all of these the little ones in there, but I'm going to try and get most of this outside of him and down into the grass and kind of hitting his hips and kind of trying to, because this little mess, he is a mess. And he's not little anymore. He's the biggest of all three of the dogs. Okay, we have Maggie, who is our family dog that we bought when we moved to Marshall and we moved into this house. And then we have Rosie, who came along about 3.5 years ago. That's Zoe's puppy. And then we have Caesar, who Clint brought home about a year ago. So I've got 3 of them, and I just haven't done any, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do one of Maggie or not, because she's just a cantankerous old lady. Hope you're good today. I painted some dogs last year. A lot of work, but so worth it. Yeah, they really can be. I was sharing my other puppy that I did last year, the grand puppy. And I've made a lot of progress in learning and since then, so definitely need to get together and paint some pups. Everybody needs to get together and paint some pups. Yeah, I know you got to be fair, but these are the grand pups. It's kind of like the kids come down off the wall a little bit when the grandkids come along, right? You just make more room for those pictures, right? Or am I wrong? Don't have any grandkids yet. I've only got the grand pups. So I'm trying to see. He's got brown coming up the inside of that leg. I think this is just kind of shadows in here on little man. I'm going to kind of just fill in the black. And when I get over here again, I'm going to feather out this brown around here to make it look more fur-like. Lots of grands, Linda. Aren't they awesome? Well, don't you just kind of have to move some of the pictures of the kids to make room for pictures of the grandkids? I mean, you want them all up there, but you just have to make more and more room for all those grandkid pictures, right? Aren't they just kind of special in their own sort of way? All right, so I'm going to switch brushes for a second and kind of edge in here so that we can see where his ear comes in. And then got the top. I'm going to hit this part right here with the black so I can kind of finish that part and then I'll come back. Because I'm trying to figure out how to get around this ear and it not look crazy. He looks like he's got a little bit of that brown shading in there. So I may just go ahead and add some brown shading in there. Wrong color. You know what? We're just going to take some of that and go right in here. I just stuck it in the brown instead of in the black. Not my best move, but it may work out in my favor. Because it's got a little bit of that brown in there. So it's got a little bit of that white in there without. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. I'm trying to get it where you can. Can you tell that right here is just a little bit different in color there? I can almost see the outline of exactly where I did it with that brush there. I don't know. We'll see. I gotta wash the black out of that now. Because that was supposed to be, or the brown. I gotta wash the brown out of that black brush. That was supposed to be in the black one. I'm gonna just kind of hit. I think I see in mine, and some of this lighting is just not the best. I don't care what I do, it just does not share in there better, you know? Now I edged it on that black. And all right. So, whoop. Now I'm going to get the black and kind of work with that. All right. Gotta get the right color here. I was starting to reach for the wrong color again. It's like, really, y'all? Okay, so that's the back leg back there, and then here's the front leg, and it actually has. So let's come down just a little bit further up here for him. Let's come around here. I had another one that I had debated doing a him where he was sitting. Our backyard has a kind of a hill in it, and he was sitting on the top of the hill, and he looked like he was on guard duty. It was so cute. just sitting up there posted and watching everything, making sure everybody's behaving and doing what they need to be doing. He looked so cute up there. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of draw with the black. That. Why does that leg look like it's way too far forward? Because I did go over the back leg. There we go. And this is the front leg where he's got. All right. Now. And yeah, this can get confusing. Trying to figure out legs if they're the same color and everything. And then as you paint it in, it just kind of got to work it and work around it. And some of that where it's black and white kind of shading, the black and the yellowy shading together looks kind of like where the fur's blending. So I'm just going to leave it, kind of wipe that black off of my brush. And just kind of leave it right there. Let the colors kind of mix a little bit. And I'm going to come get this back leg. Whoop. I'm going to have to turn it so I don't. The brush with the black paint, is that a flat or an? They're both flats. This is like a 12 and this is an 8. Yeah, this is a 12 and this is an 8. The black is on the 12 and I wanted something a little bit smaller. If I'd had a smaller one that I like to use, I might have gone with a slightly smaller, but I wanted some coverage with it, and I probably shouldn't have gone to the bottom first. That was probably not my smartest move. And I put way too much black on this leg. There's a lot of brown on his legs, so I'm going to kind of have to fix that. I think the flats give you a really good opportunity to bring it up and bring it in. And then if you want, you can use like a fan brush to kind of help with some of the hair strokes. If you want or need. I just got really where I put it on really thin and almost like dry brushing it up in certain areas. And that worked just as well as trying to use a fan brush where I didn't really have a good fan brush that was narrow enough for what I was doing. Okay. But see how we're just kind of pulling it. That's not painting like I want. Okay, that's not enough. And you figure out what brush works best for you is the other thing. Because I've seen some people say, oh, no, you'd have to use this kind of brush or that kind of brush to get good fur strokes. And I'm like, well, that's not working for me. So you just got to use what works for you and play around with it. Kind of trying to give him his little chest here. If you can do it lightly enough, it kind of, but learning to do it lightly is not an easy thing for some of us. I do the general big round shapes when I'm doing my outline, and then I kind of try to work around and work into the other shapes that are. Does that make sense? Linda, does that make sense? Let me know if that doesn't make sense and I'll try to explain it better. But what I'm trying to say is that the circles, the triangles, the bigger shapes are what I'm focused on. Like this looked more like a bow tie where it was big around and big around. And then I'm going to try and take my brushes after I get my general color in there and then kind of feather in and come down and whatnot, what I need. Yes, totally makes sense. Okay. Good deal. Because I'm like, I don't want to not be making sense, but I'm learning to draw. Okay, y'all. I've only started painting about a year, well, in November of 19. Really, I've used stencils before, but otherwise, I'd not really ever painted. Okay, I'd like traced a stencil and filled it in, and I didn't even stencil correctly because I couldn't even get those to work right for me. Because seriously, it was just awful. They would always bleed real bad, and I would get really angry. And this has a little bit of that wet black on it, and that's kind of what I was wanting right in here to kind of give it that fuzzy kind of look there. Does that, can y'all see his neck there? His little neck right in there, kind of where it's blending and fuzzing. I kind of did it a little bit around the bottom. You don't want it to look perfectly smooth here or there, either one. And look, he's got another kind of a soft ridge in here that I kind of run sideways and then kind of pull it out a little bit. And then you come over here and you run him sideways over here just a little bit and just kind of give him a little bit of that fur kind of blending in. You don't want too much of it, but there's kind of another light spot sticking in. And then like we had up here, that little fur that I'm determined to have, but it's not wanting to brush in like I want. There we go. Over here, kind of. Now, he has kind of a fuzzier look, so if you want to take your black, if you're doing something like him, or one that has, when you look at the picture, a little bit more there, I turn it toward me, and then I kind of just gently kind of come out. And I would probably stick with a smaller brush to get better quality pulls, if that makes sense. Just kind of give him a little bit of the dry brushed kind of edging on him, just so he can have some of that hair sticking out a little bit. It's really not showing up great on this. I can see it coming, but it's not wanting to come very quickly. Okay, if you look at his ear up here at the top, hang on, let me get it where it's in the light. You see how it's not a smooth flat line? Where the top is kind of a smooth flat line. You can see where there's kind of some rough brush strokes there. There we go, that's a little bit better. He's got a little bit of that edge. If you want to spend the time and do that, that's going to make it, take it up that next notch. I've never tried to paint a cat. I don't own any cats, and I haven't yet. I'm not saying I would never will paint a cat, but I haven't tried to paint one yet. I'm sure that they could turn out adorable. They're kind of fluffy. Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying. I think you would, if I was to paint one, I would probably do it basic shapes and get it down, and then take a fan brush. And I have one that's like really teeny small, like a smaller one. Wait, I think I've got another one that's really small. Where did it go? This may be the smallest fan brush that I've got, but it's kind of small. I bet I put it up there. I think I just kept one out and I put all my extras up. But I had one that I thought was even smaller than this, but I wouldn't be using but one part of it. And then you kind of take and you grab just a little bit. See how you can tell where I've got it, this on that little bit of that brush, and then kind of pull it out. I would definitely be doing that a little bit more. especially on a fuzzy cat, because my brother had a Maine Coon, which is like nothing but fur. I mean, you had like 10 to 12 pounds of fur, I think, on that thing. They're very fluffy, very fuzzy, and I would definitely be working on my fan brush technique there for sure. And then if you want to save yourself a little bit of trouble as you're coming around some of this, kind of do it in little short strokes that kind of add to that some of that fuzzy pull as it's coming back up and around. He's got a line on the ridge of his nose where there's just a little bit of color there. And then his nose has got and that's kind of a straight up and down, but we'll add some brown in it. That's the bridge of his nose. But we definitely had a little bit of that blackish brown in here. I'm going to put that kind of up his nose. And then I'll go over it with some a little bit more of that black. I don't want to cover it all up because if I look at him, his nose does have a little bit of a lighter color to it. It's not heavy black like his nose is, but like this, the bridge of his muzzle there's got those lighter colors in it. Okay. Well, thank y'all for coming and hanging out and keeping me company. It's always more fun to paint with friends and have somebody to chat about it. And see, I drew in a couple of dots here and then kind of around that edge there where he's got where it gets dark around his mouth here. Oops. I think it's time for a smaller brush. Let me see if I can find a smaller flat brush that I think I can manipulate. Okay, I have a number 6 here. We're going to see if that'll kind of dry brush that up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's dry brushing it in right in there. I'm going to get a little bit of that black and that gold and mix it. And kind of at those edges there where it's coming together. And then so that comes right up to his mouth, right to his nose. You really can't see his mouth even in this picture very well. We're going to get this and kind of come in. Get as much of that black off as we can on it in there. going to say I've got an email from someone. Probably a junk email, but I've got an email. Okay. And my general squarish triangle up here, eyebrows, I'm just going to take right in and go back and forth and kind of give it fuzzy edges at the top and at the bottom both. Because he's got them little patches that... And I need to get me a dark brown. Kind of covering up some of those slightly thinner looking spots. Alrighty. Now I need a really dark brown. How about I just take some of this and mix it with some of the black? Because that's looking way too... Okay. Okay. Now I am going to take a liner brush. Let me find one that is short and narrow. Oh, yep, I knew I had a smaller fan brush. That's even smaller than the one I was using a while ago. But yeah, I've got a really small fan brush that I like to use for that. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, so I'm going to get me, I think this is a one liner brush. No, that says it's a 2, so that's a 2 flat. Here's my one liner brush. This is like a one liner. This is a liner brush, and I'm going to get a little bit of black. I'll smooth up that under part right there. Now I'm going to get me just a little bit of white. If I can just get just a little bit of white to come out. Let me tell you, this bottle shoots out tons. Way more than I wanted. Now we're just going to kind of put some shiny spots. Where the light's kind of shining on his eyes there. And he has a little snippet on his nose right there or something. So I'm gonna put a little, no. I am going to mix a little bit of white with a little bit of black and make a really dark gray. And give him his nostrils. Because we want him to have his nostrils. And then I'm going to take the end of my brush and I'm going to kind of do a few little dots over here and over here, because that's where he's got his whiskers. And if you want to, you really can't see them on here. They're not like super long. You can go ahead and draw them in. I'm going to try. Hoping I don't mess them up too bad. thank you. And now everything is on there pretty much, except for I'm going to go ahead and use my scruffy, or if you don't have a scruffy brush. What I did with Rosie was I took a flat brush and I put my darkest green down first. And I did like 2 shades, maybe 3 there. I know now. And I think I did the light one down first. She was in different color grass too in that original picture. So what I did was I put my darker one down, and then you can take your brush and do it in the medium green, whatever color you're doing, and then in the lighter green. I love the Deco Art Hauser light, dark, and medium greens. It's kind of like a family of greens that just make the perfect grass. I've done a pumpkin patch like this that I just loved how it came out because it's so well blended and just kind of put together. Because the greens just go together. Does that make sense? They're the perfect shade. So these are typically my go-tos for grass and shading like this. Now I'm going to kind of go around his feet a little bit more and kind of cover some of that up a little bit where he's standing there and give him kind of look like he's a little more in the grass. And I think that's looking about like it's it. So, switching camera views again. Hope that doesn't make y'all sick or anything to just pop in and pop out. But here's Caesar. But he's got his little eyeballies and the light shining. And I mixed a little bit on his nose. And right here you can see in the shadow right here. I think y'all can see it from there because I can kind of see it on the screen that it's not pure black. You can see it's not pure black because there is a line there. But when you look at it close up, it's not, whoa, loads different either. It's just enough shading difference. So, well, thank you for joining me, Linda, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed it. I've been needing to paint this, but Clint saw this picture the other day of Caesar, and he says, I want it. Can I have it? I said, I need it for a reference photo for when I do my painting. He says, well, when are you going to paint it? I want my picture. I'm like, you 21-year-old punk, you. But anyway, so thank y'all for joining me. I hope y'all enjoyed painting Caesar with me. I don't think we did half bad, especially considering I was taking out the silver thing here that's in the middle of him. And I think we did pretty good. All right. Well, thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to painting with y'all again. I'm probably going to not be on again until Wednesday, and I'm going to try and do it in the mornings. It seems like I might have better luck getting people to talk to me on Wednesday morning, but we'll see. All right. We will talk to y'all then. Y'all have a great day.